Clay. Welcome back to This Is Horror.
Oh my god, it's insane. It's wild. This is like I wonder who gets co-host status at a certain point. Like which guest gets on? Who have you had on the most? Because this is what my third time, third time, I think.
I think it is the third, but
Mm-hmm.
at this point, we're just so comfortable chatting with you that we're not even keeping
Who
count
keeps
at the
tabs?
moment. But
Who's been on the most? Josh Malerman.
well, if we look in terms of episode appearance, so I know that Josh Malerman, in terms of episodes, has been on 20 episodes
Oh my
of This Is Horror.
god,
Now, that
20.
doesn't
That's so.
mean 20 conversations, because some of them have been 3-hour conversations, so that's 3 episodes. But
Yeah.
the only reason that I know with such precision is because a few days ago for the This Is Horror newsletter, I just put links to every single Josh Malerman conversation, because we've got a decade of experience, of friendship, watching the evolution of our connection and professional development. And I
That's
know
wild.
let's link, let's see how many there are. Well,
And
there are 20 now. I think 3 of those episodes are kind of bonus episodes, because we had 2 of them where it was people giving writing advice, and so it's a compendium with different authors. And then another one, he was there for the launch of They're Watching, which me and Bob wrote together. It was
yeah.
Josh Malerman and Laurel Hightower. But yeah, even if you take those 3 away, I'm not Paul Tremblay, but I can tell you that makes it 17, and that's still quite a lot of episodes.
That's wild. You mentioned that you kind of sense this like professional development, but like how much has he changed over the course of 10 years? Like, do you remember what he was like when he was just like Joshy, like little Josh, a young strapping young lad?
Well, well, yeah, I do. This is like I'm his father or something. It's like, oh yeah, I remember when Josh was just a little nipper. But yeah, that I mean, the first time we spoke to him, and I do see parallels with you and Josh quite a lot, because he's always had this creative energy, and he's so infused with what he does, that I think just listening to him speak, and the same with you, it just inspires you. It makes you want to create, it makes you want to write. But if I think about how many books he has published now I don't have those stats. I don't have every
Yeah.
horror stat in front of me right now, but I think it must be something like 13 or 14 books at this point. But when I first spoke to him, it was Bird Box, and it was a a very slender ebook called Gassel and Yule. So he had 2 publications the first time that I spoke
Wow.
to him, and now he's had the Netflix adaptation of Bird Box, which at the time was record breaking in terms of the
Yeah.
views that it had. It was the most streamed movie on Netflix. And he's now done almost what very few people do. You're known for one book as the absolute standout, but then he was like, well, hold my pen and tumbler of whiskey, because here comes Incidents Around the House, which, I mean, if you look at Bird Box and Incidents, they're almost head to head in terms of which one he's going to be most known for. I think in terms of how long it's been out, and the sales have eclipsed Bird Box as to where Bird Box would have been in that
Yeah.
point of the cycle, and they're looking at making that into a movie. I mean, they're not just
Oh,
looking at it; they
yeah, I
they
think
are. They
they're
have gone
doing
to
it, right?
Ireland. They have shot it. This is
Yeah.
this is happening. So yeah, this is bizarrely the first 5 minutes have turned into people thought they were getting a conversation with Clay McLeod Chapman, but what this is a Josh Malerman's life told to Clay McLeod Chapman.
No, but I think it's infinitely more interesting, frankly. Um, because you're kind of like you and this podcast and maybe just as readers in general, like you start with an author and you follow them through. If you're a fan, if you're kind of a devotee, and I think it's safe to say that we're all devotees of Josh Malerman, like we're fans, and I don't know, like it just kind of blows my mind to think of like who who he is, and like being able to kind of say, "Oh, you were there from the ground floor, like before like pre Netflix, pre all the hullabaloo." Um, and just kind of seeing him grow, get like a little gray on the sides, and like like just being able to see that kind of growth. Um, I don't know. It's a rare opportunity. And if you've done 20 episodes with him, I feel like you're in the privileged position of being able to say like, uh, "Look at our little boy go."
But the funny thing is, in the first episode, so that was so back in the early This Is Horror days that
Yeah.
Bob Pastorella wasn't the co-host. That was
I
me
wasn't
and
even
Dan
born
Howard.
yet.
He wasn't born. That's how long ago this was.
No, I was
And
born.
and so as part of the episode, I think probably it would be in part two or part three. Me, Dan Howarth, and Josh Malerman we just start riffing on what our ideal film adaptation of Bird Box would look like. We're just throwing out ideas. Like we're even I think we get into some really bizarre ideas of having like people literally being blindfolded in a cinema, and just it gets pretty weird. There's parts that
Oh
we'd
wow.
shoot in black and white. So to just think this was before anyone had even been cast, I think at that point he'd had meetings, there'd been conversations about the film, but nothing had been filmed, nothing was set in stone, and you just have this this conversation. So with Josh as well, and I think with you, it doesn't matter if I have drank nothing, I have taken nothing. I am technically sober, but I become intoxicated on possibility, on creativity. And so we're all in this almost drunken stone stage of creative euphoria. And
Yeah.
yeah.
The inebriation of Josh, the Malerman intoxication effect.
But don't you get this too? Not specifically with Josh, but just with creativity and with art and with ideas. Sometimes I think we get drunk on an idea.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's the kind of key difference of uh like I want to say that being able to kind of do any version of this life of kind of telling stories, writing for publication, like like you have to be kind of enamored with the kind of art of it, the craft of it, because otherwise, like, I don't know, like I as a very sober minded individual, the kind of energy and frenetic kind of kinetic quality to writing and storytelling in general, like this is all I've got. So few vices in my life, zero vices, just other than by ice cream, as Bob and I were talking about before we started. um I, this is all I want to do. I don't, me personally, like this is my 12-step program is basically just like write stories and get them out there into the world.
Did you used to have vices and now you don't? I'm just wondering, sometimes
No,
there's like an origin story.
no. I mean, like I'll be frank, like I'm a pretty boring individual. I was never one to indulge. Um, I, it's funny because like I grew up in a household where I was kind of made intensely aware of the addictions of family members. Like, I don't know how interesting, long story this is, but like I've never met my biological father. He left before he was even made aware of the fact that I was in the picture. But from the narrative that I've heard from other people, he was an addict. He was someone who uh, kind of like had his own kind of like issues and struggles, and that was something that kind of followed him throughout the course of his life. He's passed away since, but I never met him, and I think having that narrative kind of like been exposed to like who my father was and who he was within the kind of like construct of my life. I think I was just intensely aware of it, and so like it just kind of pushed me away from it. um Alcoholism, addiction, it's there have been members of my family, both present and not, who have had struggles with that, and we've, as a family, kind of been exposed to it and had to support those members of the family. um, and it just like it I don't know, like it made it easy for me to say I don't want this in my life. And I am such a bundle of nerves. Like I'm a really high strung, kind of tight, like I'm clenching my sphincter right now. Like I'm just like very kind of anal. And because of that, the notion of alcoholism and drugs, the relenting of control, the relenting, like the loosening of that sphincter is just so impossible for me. Like I just don't like losing control. So I'm going to hold on to it for as long as possible until my body collapses.
That allows you to lose control on the page, though. And
Yeah,
so,
right?
because it's like, but if you compare you and Josh, it's like and there's a slew of writers that are doing this right now, and I love it. When you come up with an idea for a story, you put your whole fucking chest into it. You know what I mean? And it's like, I, I come up with some wild ideas, and I still don't have I don't have the confidence to put my whole chest into it, and I only put like like a peck into it, So it's like I don't. But it's like reading one of your stories is like, I'm going to go down this path, and I'm charging down this path, and this I'm going to make you like it. And it's like, I'm going to make you give a damn about these characters. I'm going to make these people compelling and things like that. And that is intoxicatingly influential and inspiring. And so you found a way to channel all that nervous tightness and let it cut loose on the
Yeah.
page. And that's
Do,
just bottle it and sell it and let me drink
yeah,
some of it, man. You
please.
know.
I would love to. But I'm curious, like I want to counter because I want to ask, like, does it come off as confidence? Because to me, it's like it's almost like a relenting, like a lack of like knowing what I'm doing and letting the story be a little more chaotic. Like that kind of like all peck, all, like going in chest first, like, to me, it, is there a version of that where it's not a confident version, but more of like, oh, here we go. Like, it's like, I don't know, like diving in head first to me isn't like, in my mind, I think of it as less about like, I know what I'm doing and I'm in control, but more of like, I don't know what I'm doing and I'm not in control. And the chaos that kind of unfurls is equally a surprise to me as it may be to you or anyone out there. So, and that's the difference of like something feeling fresh or novel versus not. I don't know. I'm throwing it out there because you say confident, and I'm just like, I have no fucking confidence. Like, I have the desire, I have the need to do it, and that like pushes. There's a lot of motivation and kind of there's a motor to that, but it's not like I know I know what I'm doing.
Right. I think it's more exuberant enthusiasm than confidence, to be honest with you. And that says a lot, though, because here's the thing: it's like you have an ability to throw caution to the wind, and it's probably because and I may be wrong on this, but you probably finish every story that you start. So
Yes. Yeah.
and so you don't have too many of stranded orphans out there, and or if you do, you'll come back to them and finish them later.
I mean,
But
maybe, but I mean, I will say, like, there are a lot of stories that like will never see the light of day because it's like
okay,
I'll finish them and I'll be like, oh wow, that one sucks, and it'll be like, well, got it out of the system, and
yeah,
like maybe there'll be a return to it, but it's more about getting it out of me instead of like having it linger. But I'm sorry, I interrupted. You were about to bring up another point.
right. It's the whole concept of, hey, do I write with confidence? I should write with confidence, and then you can't because it's like I'm going to be, it's like being right-handed at 58 years old and going, I'm going to be left-handed now. I'm just going to do it. Y'all are going to have to deal with it on the handwritten stuff and all of that, but we're going to make it happen. Well,
Yeah.
you can't use your right hand? Nah, I can, but I'm not. Okay. Yeah. You will fail miserably at that because you're just not ready to do that unless, I would fail at it.
Yeah.
So confidence, I don't, you can't think about it. So in other words, like you're thinking about everything else.
Yeah.
And that's what brings the story to the page.
Yeah.
It's like trying to explain the mystery. You can't really explain the mystery because then there's no mystery. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's like what I always say, the Evil Dead doesn't work on paper. It really doesn't. As soon as you start writing it down, go, this is bullshit. It doesn't fucking work. But you put it in a film, you put it in 88 minutes and it's perfect.
I want to believe that it's so funny, like just hearing you talk about confidence and that idea of like who writes from a place of confidence. Like, I want to believe, like, does John Langan write from a place of confidence? He has to write from a place of confidence. Does Nathan Ballingrud write from a place of confidence? Like, they have to write from a place of confidence, right? Like who would not believe John Langan? Like, he strikes me as just the most confident person. I don't know. Like, I want to believe that there are people who know what they're doing, because if nobody knows what they're doing, then what the hell are we doing? That's my wild point for the night. What are we doing?
Well, we will definitely be getting on to Nathan Ballingrud later, so do not worry about that.
Done.
Especially after the way that Acquired Taste wraps up. But goodness, we're having this conversation and you're asking, do you come across as chaotic? Do you come across as confident? And there's two kind of levels to that, because one, there's the level of you as a person, and then there's the level of your writing. So in terms of you as a person, and particularly when I see these kind of clips and videos from your live events, I mean, a lot of it reminds me of when I'm teaching. That is a performance. I'm putting on a show. I'm putting on an act. So because I'm coming from that place of experience, I know that I can be having the worst day, or I'm not feeling good, or just there's a lot of bad things going on in my head. But when I enter that classroom, it is showtime. And so I can definitely see with your readings and your energy that you are putting on a performance, and you are doing it in a both chaotic and portraying confidence mode, shall we say. But I know that just because you outwardly portray it, it doesn't mean that inwardly that is happening. So I think what's going on with your readings and your performances is masterful, it's perfect, it's exactly what we want. Now, I know from talking to you personally that, sometimes there's a bit of a disconnect between the, I suppose, put on confidence and the reality. But, I know that it does come as well to a point where when we're writing for so long, we at least we know more than we started out. We know story mechanics. We know how to put a story together. We know how to write at least a semi competent sentence. But the doubt that always comes in for us is like, okay, but is this creatively going to work? Is the magic? We can't say that, because that part of the equation is almost from the reader, from the response, from the audience.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about, I suppose, you. And is this turning into a therapy session? It's like, oh, so here's my here's my analysis of you. Then when you look at the writing, there is a chaotic confidence, and something that is particularly wonderful about reading a short story collection is it means that in a relatively short space of time, I've just read about 20 stories of yours.
Oh
And
man.
so, you get to spot patterns, you get to see, okay, there are different modes as to what a Clay McLeod Chapman story is. And one thing that really stood out is how much you love a repeated chorus, whether it's baby carrots, baby carrots, baby carrots, or whatever it is, you love to repeat things and they get inside your head as an almost earworm. And it's something that also Chuck Palahniuk does very successfully. But I think it's something that if you're going to do it with your writing, you have to fully commit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do like, oh, here's a little repeated chorus. You've got to go all in, and that is exactly what you do. So I think with some people that's going to be a huge success, as it is with you. With other people, if you're not owning it, then it's not going to work. It's almost like a kind of over the top suit. Anyone can wear it as long as they wear it with confidence. But if you don't feel it,
Hmm.
it's not going to work.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up Chuck Palahniuk, because I mean, I remember when I first read Fight Club, and it was before the movie, which I feel like there's a rare, like, it's so rare for anyone to be like, oh, I read the book before I saw that movie nowadays. But I think, like, I do remember the kind of imprimatur that his kind of narrative style had on me, for sure. But even like going back further, like Allen Ginsberg, or like I love the beat poets, and like like doing the things that Kerouac and Ginsberg and William S. Burroughs was definitely my favorite. But like looking at text as as something that kind of can exist on the page, absolutely, for sure, but that there's something that kind of manifests itself either lyrically, uh orally, like there's something to be said about the kind of like the activating of text, and I think Chuck Palahniuk does that amazingly well. um and it's something that so few people do outside of, like, I don't know, performance poetry, or like, like or the oral tradition. And but there's certain books, novels, stories, whatever you want to say, but like you read them off the page, and if you were to read it out loud, it would activate in this way that feels different. It's meant to be read off the page. It's like like the text is there, but like there's some summoning or some kind of manifestation or some sort of kind of like evocation that if you were to just read it. And I think like incidents around the house too, like if you read that out loud, like it has this like this cadence, this rhythm to it that like just feels so alive. I mean, I know there's an audiobook to that book, and I haven't listened to it, but like I have to imagine it's almost this like sonic litany, because it always kind of comes back to this like just that kind of rhythm, that cadence. Yeah, certain narrative styles lend themselves to that, and it's just a different way of reading, and it's not for everybody. Like you guys are being really kind to me. There are plenty of people who cannot abide by that kind of lyrical nature that you're highlighting, because it comes off as repetitive to them. It comes off as kind of redundant, like, ugh, you've said this a million times already, like baby carrots, like get like the story could be 2 pages long if you just cut out all the friggin' baby carrots.
And I just realized this too in reading the collection. Not only do you have like the cadence, but you do quite a few stories in first person. Every single voice is distinctive and different. There's a performance there.
Yeah.
And I can imagine these stories being read, and here watching a video of you read is one thing, and I would love one day to actually be present to see you read, because that's, to me, that would be like going to a concert,
Yeah.
and because the videos are amazing, but it's like there's a character, and you embodied this character, and that is I guess that's a form of confidence, because you're putting yourself into the character, but at the same time, it's a performance, and so you have to have a level of confidence to do that. So yeah, we keep coming back to that.
You know what?
It's unavoidable.
It's unavoidable, but you're gonna hate me, because like I'm gonna say, and I genuinely feel this, if I was more confident in the writing itself, I would not do any of that performance stuff. Like for me, I feel if I were a better writer, I would stand back, stand down, and just let the writing kind of speak for itself. Like most days I feel like I'm kind of like throwing all these bells and whistles on purely out of the kind of like the innate need to like draw attention my way, just in order to kind of like do this thing. And you know, for me, the performative aspects to the stories, or the things that you like, going to see a reading, becomes its own kind of show. And it's fun for me, and I really enjoy it. I love it, because that's just something that I naturally, it is my choice to do it. But if I was like, the story's good, I would just, I don't know, like, I feel like I would just let it, I would probably not do it as much, or go full tilt. And I think it's because I'm overcompensating for what I feel the story lacks, and that it needs some sort of like zhuzh, kind of like more of a thing to kind of make it feel alive, or just like, I don't know, the thing I hear in my head versus the thing that people read. Like, I'm disconnecting there, and so I'm trying to like bring that to the forefront by doing these, off the wall readings. But Cormac McCarthy probably didn't do that. David Foster Wallace probably didn't do that. like
Mhm.
like Barbara Kingsolver, I don't know, does she do that? Like I feel like Toni Morrison, would she like for those writers who are like, no, I'm good, I'm just gonna let the story, like, I'll read from an excerpt, but like the story does the heavy lift. I don't need to do that.
I think your stories do that. I mean, I don't think you need to do the readings.
Yeah.
You should only do them if you enjoy them. People do enjoy them, but it's not the thing. It's not like, hey, did you read his book? No, but I saw him live. No, it's not like that. No, I mean, you have to read the book. I
Yeah.
mean, that's, to me, that's the ultimate, because that voice is in my head at that point, and so I get to hear that character through my head. Does that make sense? I think.
Yeah.
I hope
Kind
I'm
of.
not losing anybody, but yeah.
But it's like,
So you're enhancing it when you do the performance.
yeah. I guess my fear is, I'm thinking of like Kiss, maybe? Like, do people listen to Kiss albums, or do they like want to go see the live show? And I mean, Kiss on a record is kind of like, okay, you get, like, it's like, sure, like, you can hum along to these songs, but like, you want to go see the show because it's about the live show. Um, I want to make sure that the albums are good. That is my goal, and that should remain my goal. The touring, the live shows, the readings, like those events, like they enhance the experience. But for me, like, I have to make sure it always goes back to the story, because if it doesn't go back to the story, then it's just all smoke and mirrors, and me and makeup.
Oh my goodness. There's so many different facets and areas that I now want to take this. So, first of all, to open, I think pretty much every writer, no matter how talented, if I go to see them reading and they put on a performance, that makes it a better reading. That makes it a more interesting evening. I think if Cormac McCarthy threw in maybe some pyrotechnics and, some animations, it would
Oh,
make it
God.
better, because it doesn't matter how good the book is. When you go to the live experience, the live reading, this is a different medium now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, I don't see it as overcompensating. I see it as a smart move to know what the medium is and what we're
Yeah.
doing here. And it doesn't make the book lesser. In fact, I think it does, as you've both said, it enhances the book, but that doesn't mean that it needed enhancing to
Yeah.
begin with. But it just means now maybe when you reread it, you've got those memories. If
Yeah.
I listen to a studio album, but I've seen that band live, I can kind of picture that, and it takes it to the next level. But
Yeah.
if I watch somebody just doing a kind of straight reading, and I don't know if this is blasphemy to say, after what, like 13 years of doing this as horror podcast, but it is a little bit boring if it's just a straight reading.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
I'm
writers don't want to do them anymore. Like, I've been doing like events, all year long, and like, when you do a book event, there's the option of like, do you guys want to do a reading? Like 9 times out of 10, like 10 times out of 10, they'll just be like, no. People just don't like to read from their books. And I mean, like, readings could be pretty dry. They could be pretty boring. But like, I don't know. Like, I don't think anybody wants to do it. It's weird.
I think, the greatest way to experience reading is reading, is sitting down and reading that book to yourself. That is the way in which it was intended. So yeah, I mean, I think we're all admitting that if you're just reading it aloud, especially if it was a bit monotone, that's not fun. That's not good.
Yeah.
That's why, when we've got the audiobook, we have professional narrators because probably with the exception of a few people like Stephen King, but God, he's the exception to everything in every arena. It's not that captivating to hear someone just reading their book. So I get the authors not wanting to do it because I think you've got to bring something a little bit performative. So, I mean, when I'm doing a reading, it's not the level of you or Josh Malerman or Chuck Palahniuk, but I'll at least try and distinguish the accents a bit. Like I had a scene where I'm ripping off my tie and removing elements of clothing. You didn't have to go as far as now subscribe to my OnlyFans. We didn't remove that amount of clothes, but just making it a little bit more action packed and visceral. And no, I don't think at all that means that the writing's bad or it's overcompensating. It is trying to make the reading itself interesting. And I tend to find if I've got to do a reading, that the most difficult bit, particularly if it's to promote a novel, is what on earth do I read? Because the novel, the intention was never oh, here's a 10-minute section of it. The point of the art is that it's the whole piece.
Yeah.
So then either I have to find, okay, well, what's one of the most dramatic bits, or what's a story within the story, or I think another solution, and I think this is absolutely fine. Some people do it, is to be like, right, so this is the novel. I'm not reading from that, even though we're promoting it. Here is a short story. Here is a complete piece.
Yeah.
And if you like this, you may also like the novel that I'm promoting. So I think it's very much looking at the time constraints, at what you're doing. And, I've had bits as well where when me and Bob did a reading from their watching for the live podcast, I took the text and I made it almost more like a screenplay. So I cut some of the um, exposition and made it more dialogue heavy because that's what you want for that performance. So
Yeah.
this is all to say, I would love you to be confident about your own writing, but it's difficult. As writers, it is completely difficult. But what I don't want is for your confidence to be so high that you stop doing the live performative pieces.
Yeah.
So rather than it be that you're never confident about your work, hopefully on this podcast, and it's quite ambitious to achieve this in a podcast, but we can rewire your brain to understand that actually the live performances and readings are complementary and you are doing what needs to be done for
Yeah.
maximum enjoyment, and not even just entertainment, though, that as well, but just for really doing it justice in that medium.
Yeah. You know, well, thank you. Thank you. Like, honestly, like, you don't have to rewire my brain. Like, it's the wiring's there. It, I guess the difference is that, like, well, I mean, like, we could kid about this being therapy, but like, I I want to come from this place of radical honesty where it's just like, you know, I have gotten to a place where I don't. I realize that I don't have many answers other than just like I'm trying to figure it out for myself, and so that idea of being confident enough, but not being confident too much, like I've realized for myself the moments where I have felt the most confident or the most kind of assured of myself, like I know what I'm doing. Like those are the moments where I get lazy, I slacken, like I lose a certain kind of control over that chaos, and it's there out of like a place of like ego, or like, it's something, it's just like it undermines the actual creativity, where like if I'm feeling good or confident enough, like the work itself starts to suffer, which is fucked up. Like that's just like Jesus Christ. Like there's no winning. But like that in of itself, like that acknowledgement of like, okay, like if like I'm just gonna let go of that. Like I'm not like, this is not about me being in control or having like a sense of kind of self-assuredness to lord over my creativity. It's just like, I don't know. I have no control. I feel pretty like uncertain most of the time, all the time. And but it leads to like a discovery, like a creative epiphany that is like better than or greater than anything that I could plan, or like I'm setting out to do this. Like this is my goal, and I'm confident enough that I can achieve that goal. Like the tools of the craft are in my possession, and therefore I will implement them and succeed at whatever that kind of mission statement is. For me, I'm just like, like I have a story I want to tell. There's an A, there's a B. I don't know how I'm going to get there. Let's jam. And if all of the stars are aligned, and if I'm cooking with gas, and if the muses hit, like all of the ifs, like make that is the alchemy of like, oh, this is good. But it's not good because I was like, I know what I'm doing. It's good because I don't know what I'm doing. And that's messed up. But that's my process now. So I'm just rolling with it until something else happens.
Everything's like on a sliding scale. You have this area where you're at, and you know how to make your story. The other end of the spectrum is you can be like James Ellroy, who is almost a character of himself and doesn't even do readings anymore. He shows up and tells everybody that he's James Ellroy. This is the best fucking book I've ever wrote. I'm signing at the table over there. I'll see you in a minute. And that's pretty much what he does. And it's like, would you ever go see James Ellroy? I'm like, no, I can buy one of his signed books. I mean, he's not going to do anything other than sit there and sign books. And that, to me, when you have that level of confidence, the quality can possibly begin to diminish, which is why I probably haven't read the last 3 Elroy books. I think he needs to get back and capture some of that Black Dahlia mojo he had going on. But, that's me. So
yeah. You bring up a really good point, though. People who go to events, like go out to see events, that is so cool. And if anyone goes to like see me do something, or like something that I'm involved in, like that, like you have to give them like 110%, because I think live events, in-person events, things that like you have to leave your home and go to it, like they're so rare. And like unless you're like James Ellroy, the rest of us have to hustle. Like we have to like earn our audience. And if I get 5 people, 10 people, 20 people, 30, 50, like whatever the number is, like those people came out because they wanted to be there. And no one's making them go. There's no extra credit for going to see me live. But like there's something so cool about and exciting about like those people making the effort. And damn right, it's going to be a show. Let's do something fun. Let's do something that feels rare and feels like we could only do this together tonight, and no other event nowhere else is going to be quite like tonight, and that's because the kind of composition of who's there. It's like, you're there tonight, you're not going to be there tomorrow, it's going to be someone else tomorrow, and like that, I don't know, there's value to that alchemy of just the kind of singularness of what makes in-person live events special, and that's people. People make it special, no matter how many there are.
Yeah, I think too that, we're talking about confidence, and it's making me think about the kind of differences between confidence and optimism. So
Hmm.
I find that I'm a very optimistic person,
Yeah.
and I kind of have the approach rather than, oh, well, why would it be me? Why wouldn't it be me? Has to be someone. Why not
Yeah.
me? But if I think about confidence, you were talking about not being confident in the writing, but sometimes that is the weird alchemy that makes it special. And I've noticed recently that when I am first drafting a story, in the vast majority of cases, I am not confident at all. I'm
Hmm.
feeling like, oh, this is rubbish. I've absolutely lost whatever kind of touch I may or may not have had before.
Yeah.
Whatever happened when I wrote The Girl in the Video, that's gone now. But then after that first draft, when I look at it again, and it's like, this isn't so bad actually. This is something I can work with, and then you start molding it and adding things, and it's like, okay, it's cooking now. So I know different writers feel different at different stages. Some people hate the editing, but I kind of love the editing and the redrafting, because now
Yeah.
I've got something that I can actually turn into something, you know, p- hopefully pretty good.
Yeah.
I said I'm an optimist, so I think, yeah, I think it's okay. I don't know if the readers will. That's up to them, but at least it's something where I can think, I gave it a good go. But it's so weird, that first draft. Yeah, it's not there. And actually, recently, I've found myself getting like into these situations where I'm a little bit stuck, and so I'm just trying things out, not
Yeah.
knowing if they will work. But because it's worked before, I trust the muse or whatever it is that gave me this batshit idea that I've no idea. Well, what would happen after that? Don't know. Let's take the ride. But then it
Yeah.
kind of works.
So it's interesting because what you're saying is you have to have the optimism to get through the first draft, and then you discover the story, or find the kind of thing in the story that works for you in the revising, in the second draft. And is that where the confidence comes in, or is the confidence, is it just nothing but optimism? I'll find the story. I know it's in there somewhere.
Goodness, it's difficult to, because these are things that are fundamentally about what it is to be a creative, to a point, what it is to be a human.
Yeah.
I know that I'm a very optimistic person because, we've mentioned before about, what, 5 years ago now, me going through the worst time of my life, my
Yeah.
personal life. And even though it was very dark, I believed that there was a light. I believed that there was going to be some good, that there was a reason for me to keep going, to stick around. And I think having that experience, and almost like the worst experience I could possibly have, like, of course, it wasn't a good thing, but that's now transferable to any time that there's any darkness or any doubt in anything. It's like, well, that things can get better. So that's kind of where the optimism is coming from. I mean, I've said before, I may have even said it in conversations with you, that with that specific situation in a bizarre way, I sometimes think, well, thank goodness it was me who went through that, because I think a lot of people, if that had happened, they wouldn't be here. They'd have just tapped out. They'd have been like,
Yeah.
no, this is hopeless. And but I didn't. I kept going, and so I apply that to all areas of my life. And at the moment, I don't know. I am simultaneously having a slight creative wobble and creative moment of doubt, but I'm also optimistic enough to be like, no, keep pushing through. So there is a paradox within my mind. You know, I
Yeah.
don't invite anyone to go into my mind. It's a weird, weird place to be. But just every time there's a win, it's like you've got to hold on to that. And in fact, I was saying to Ross Jeffrey the other day, so I mean, there's something going on with one of my books at the moment to do with a possible movie, and it's
Holy moly.
really, really exciting. There's really good things happening. Now, with that book before, there were a lot of good things happening right up until the moment it was like, no, that's gone now. That's
Yeah.
cancelled. That's over. It's like, okay, so that's that. But now we're back again at a point where it's like, no, this is good, and it's so weird to live the creative life, because you have these moments where it's like, if this actually happens, this is going to change my life. This is
Yeah.
going to change my creative trajectory. This is going to mean that I've kind of made it, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But at any moment, somebody could say, "Ah, we're just stopping the ride." No, that opportunities. We just decided we're not going to go forward anymore. I think this happens more in the film world than the publishing world. It's not. It's not really in the creative world that Dale Ray are like, you've got a book deal, and then 6 months later they're like, just kidding, that's gone. If you get good publishing news, that usually follows through. Not always, but most
Yeah.
of the time,
Yeah.
that is.
Let's hope so. Let's knock on wood that
Yeah,
the publishing industry doesn't follow the way of Hollywood and the film industry.
yeah,
But hey, man, congratulations! Bury the lead. Like you're like this is good news.
yeah.
News that you can't share. I'm assuming. Like this is not. It's like gestationally. Like it's baby
Yeah,
stepping.
it's interesting, because so with the first deal, there were NDAs and things in place, but at the moment, nothing has been said whether it can or cannot be
Yeah.
shared. But I think convention is, it's like, well, you can't give too many details until
Yeah. Until it's
all
real.
parties have been consulted. But there are very exciting things happening, and I am more collaboratively involved than I was the first
Mm.
time around. It's been very, very exciting. And actually, my approach when something bad happens, it's like, well, this bad thing has happened because something even better is going to happen around
Yeah.
the corner. You don't know what that is yet.
Yeah.
And actually, with my life, that has largely always been the case. Something really bad happens, but something even better is going to happen later. There's a reason for it. And so what's going on at the moment with the movie is like, well, this is so much more aligned with my vision for a movie anyway.
Yeah.
And this is so, God, I have a really good feeling about it. The people I'm working with couldn't be better. Almost like
Mm.
ideal for what I would like to make. Um,
Mhm.
Oh man.
but you've got to have this optimism grounded with realism. This is why it's so difficult to explain to people what is the creative mindset.
Yeah.
It's a mindset, it's a life that maybe if you can avoid it, you should avoid it. But, be optimistic enough to take chances, to make the work, to
Yeah.
put yourself out there, but be realistic enough to know, but it might not happen, and only celebrate the stage of the process that you are at. It's like kind of, and it sounds cynical saying it like this, but I mean it optimistically. It's like prepare for the worst, but hope for the best.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with film and TV development for publishing projects. I feel like it's like the cardinal sin with film is that the second you start getting your hopes up, like you've got that much farther to fall. So it's like as soon as you're like, oh, this could really happen, like all of a sudden you're just like levitating just a little bit more, and like it's like the more buoyant you become, the higher your hopes get. Like, it's rough to say, but more often than not, like those film projects go away, they disappear,
Mhm.
and then you just fall. And like it's happened to me a dozen times. Like it's inevitable. You start to get your hopes up. It's like, oh my god, like we're closer than we've ever been. And then someone in some office somewhere far, far away says, nah, we're not going to do that thing. And you just like all that hope just goes. So you have to manage your expectations, but that optimism gets you through the day, right?
I think it's to me it just rattles my nerves that you could get a whole team, together behind a project to make it into a film. They start, building up and getting ideas and getting notes and things like that, and getting a package and taking it to, and working it and everything like that. And they take it and, hey, we're about to get a green light and all that. And like you said, there's some guy sitting in the office going, yeah, I read that book. I thought it fucking sucked. No.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, well, yeah. And I'm like, to me, I don't know. It's like, don't, I'd like to be optimistic, but if somebody said, hey, we're going to take the small hours and make it into a movie, I'm not going to probably celebrate until I can go to a theater and see it, because I don't like disappointment. I
Yeah.
really don't.
Yeah.
And and it's kind of like but I'll always have the book,
Yeah.
and it's like when they interviewed Cormac McCarthy about The Road, and they're like, "How do you feel about the changes that they made to the story?" And Cormac goes, well, "The book didn't change. It's right there at the store. You can get it if you want. They made some changes for a film because you can't make a book into a movie." And I
Yeah.
was like, "That's profoundly wise. You'll always have the book."
Yeah. Totally. And I do think, you guys are right where it's like you have to celebrate every step of the process, because you never know how far into the process you're going to get. But like if someone options your movie, like takes the film and TV rights, like that's something to celebrate. If like for me, the biggest celebration beyond like payment, beyond like, you know, if you can announce it, if there's like a press release that says this is a thing that is existing presently at this moment with these people, like that to me is almost maybe just a little bit more worth it than the money, whatever the paycheck is, because then you can at least say this is real. Like it might not happen, they might not make it, but like it's real right now, and that's pretty cool. You just want to be loved, and Hollywood is such a fickle. they're kind of fickle about what they love and when they love it. So yeah, take the love where you can get it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. And I mean, if I think about the first time that this adaptation was doing the rounds and all the things that happened, I'm just hugely appreciative of that experience, the people who took a chance, the people who engaged with the book, the people who believed in it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, financially, like I said this on a podcast with Josh Malerman. Of course I did, because he's been on 20 of them, hasn't he? But, with the first time that it was commissioned for adaptation, like financially, that literally helped me get through the worst time in my life.
Yeah.
That helped me fund my custody battle and divorce. There's a possibility, as insane as it is, that I might not see my daughter if that hadn't happened. And that 2020 was such a bizarre time, and 2020 to 2022, because on one hand, I'm going through the worst things personally, but on the other, I had my first book published. I have that kind of film adaptation news as well, so people can read between the lines. Oh, what book could it have been? And then, like, I'm meeting all these amazing people. It was also the first year that we had a conversation with Chuck Palahniuk, who's one of my personal literary heroes. So it life, it's rarely, is your life good or is your life bad at the moment? Well, it's not good, or good, and there's the good
Yeah.
bits and the bad bits. But that just, it was a life-changing experience. And now, like, it's kind of happening again, just creatively. I'm so appreciative, like, specifically for somebody who's now kind of working on it with me, and just for having met them. And we're both very realistic about things, and it's like, we know that it might not work out. That is the nature of the game. But as I said, maybe it will. And
Mhm.
even if it doesn't, it's like I've got this new professional connection. We're having a good time. We're creating something special. If this doesn't work, maybe something does in the future. Even if it doesn't, maybe we can just celebrate the fact that we are creating something and we are experiencing joy right now. There's too many people that I see that something falls through, and I understand it, but they turn to resentment and hatred and cynicism, and oh, fucking hell, this has happened again. But yeah, it sucks. It's not fun to find that this thing that you're excited about isn't gonna happen. But maybe we should celebrate the good moments that did happen and be optimistic about what might happen in the future. As we said,
Yeah.
a no now could be a greater yes in the future. You're too close to no during that initial no moment.
Yeah. It's got to stay on that hamster wheel.
So we've been talking for an hour, but what we haven't actually mentioned is one of the reasons that we are chatting today is because Kill Your Darling won Novella of the Year in the This Is Horror Awards. So, I mean, firstly, congratulations on that.
Oh man. So we can officially talk about it? Like it's in the open as of now on this recording?
On this
Mhm.
recording, yes. In this
Yes.
reality, we are going to announce it this week.
That's wild.
All right.
Man, that's the coolest feeling. Thank you guys. I don't do you talk about the decision making process? I don't know, I don't want to ask too many questions if that's inappropriate, but like
No,
I,
so
I've
we're
never won anything
very,
before, so
I've always been very transparent about the way that things work with the This Is Horror Awards, and when I put them together to begin with, I really wanted a kind of reader curated horror awards, and so the way that it works to begin with, there is a period for people to send in their nominations, the public nominations, so anyone can send in anything to be considered. And so then from that long list, and it usually is a very long list, we'll have a look at, okay, what has come in and how many people have kind of nominated each work, and then we really have the excruciating process of whittling it down to five books, or there's a podcast category, to five entries in each category, and that will be obviously looking at the quality and looking at the amount of people who want this book to be considered. And then from there, we announce the shortlist, and then that is completely voted upon by the
Mhm.
general public. So the winner, in this case, you, Kill Your Darling, that is of the five, that is the one that received the most votes from the public. And this is what I said I wanted, of course, is for this to be as reader curated as possible, and this seems to be the way. I mean, you can never make a perfect system. we
Yeah,
we know that in all facets of life, but this is as good as we've kind of got it down for just really these are the five that we believe as a community are the best of the best, and now we're just putting it to the public to vote for which one is the winner for you.
yeah, man, that's wild. It I mean, like, it I don't know, like, just thinking of, like, people being able to vote for what they want, and just, I don't know, like, I'm a little speechless. Like, I don't know. Uh it's a wild feeling. I'm excited. Like, that book in particular, it's such a small book, and the ability to get it into people's hands is hard, because I think of the subject matter, because it's, you know, on this independent press, because it's like, I almost feel like there are all these different things that are kind of making it hard for people to find that book. So knowing that there are people who are advocating for it and celebrating it, it just means the world to me, because, like, it's just like a small story. Um, yeah, I don't know. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and it's such an effective story too. But I'm conscious of the fact that actually the last time that we spoke to you, we did speak at length about Kill Your Darling. So, I wanted to give everyone who won an award the opportunity to return to the podcast and to kind of mark that occasion. But then we've got this almost bizarre situation where quite a few people, it's like, but we did actually talk about your book on a previous episode. So it's like,
Yeah.
hey, you won.
Yeah.
Now we're going to talk about a book that maybe it will win something in the future. Maybe it won't.
That,
Um,
okay.
and that's kind of how we've done it. And so, I mean, we did speak to you, as I said, 7 months ago.
Yeah.
I'd usually open the first hour with this, but we turned it into the Josh Malerman retrospective. Um, Retrospective, does that make it sound like he passed away? He's not
He's
dead. He's still
he's
very
just
much with us.
he's still going.
But yeah, what have been the biggest changes for you in those 7 months, both personally and professionally?
Oh, wow. Um, you know, it's been a year, The January started off with Wake Up and Open Your Eyes. I had a graphic novel that came out in June called Seance in the Asylum with Dark Horse. And that was a fun one. Acquired Taste with Titan Books came out in September. I am a week, almost less than 2 weeks away from releasing a YA novel called Shiny Happy People, which is a kind of YA sci-fi horror novel. And I'm writing for younger readers, which is really exciting. I had a movie, like every so often I get to like work in film and TV stuff. It's for everything we were talking about before. It's amazing how you can have a kind of parallel career writing and developing stuff for Hollywood, and it just never ever will see the light of day. And I occasionally get to do that. Like it's not a consistent kind of thread, but it's there enough that like, once a year I'll like work on something, like either pitching it, developing it, writing it. And this script that I had written years and years ago finally got greenlit. And it was a micro thing. It was really small, independent all the way, financed through Europe and like all of these different production companies overseas. But they filmed it in 2024 in Ireland, and it had its premiere in September at Fantastic Fest, which is this wonderful, amazing genre festival in Texas and in Austin. And I got to go and see the world premiere. It is called the Restoration at Grayson Manor, and it's a very gothic, queer killer hand movie. And it's since played the Sitges Film Festival in Spain. It was just this weekend in Italy at another film festival that I want to say it's called the Trieste Film Festival, but I might be wrong, so forgive me. But yeah, I don't know what distribution plans are for that, but that's hopefully in the works. They never tell me much of anything. Like I'll find out when the ink dries. But creatively, like life has been good. It's been fruitful. Working on the next book. And like trying to keep family healthy, happy, safe, do that thing of like raising kids in this crazy world we are living in. I don't know, like things are good. Everybody's okay. And I just want to keep it that way. That's all. I just want to keep alive.
Yeah, that is a good target. And let's start with the restoration at Grayson Manor. So
Yeah.
you said that you wrote the script years ago. So,
Yeah.
I mean, firstly, how many years are we talking? And then, it got greenlit. So I'd love to know the process from it getting greenlit to having this amazing film filmed in Ireland.
It's a real long circuitous route, and not every film has to be this way, but it was for this one in particular. Um, I met a filmmaker, Glenn McQuaid. He's a wonderful, lovely, beautiful man from Dublin. Lives in the state. He kind of alternates between the States and Dublin, but he was one of the contributors for the original VHS horror anthology. He was one of the directors of one of the segments for that. He did a feature called I Sell the Dead. He co created a radio play series called Tales from Beyond the Pale with an East Coast horror independent production company called Glass Eye Pix. And that's how I met him, because I was one of the contributors for that radio play series. And like I'm it's either 2011 or 2013, but like Glenn and I really hit it off in the working on these radio plays, these horror, like Tales from the Crypt style, EC comic style radio shows. And Glenn and I really hit it off. He really liked my segments. And he was like, I have this idea for a robotic hand story. And he was interested to see if I wanted to write it. And, you know, like 2013, like this is like over 10 years ago of like spitballing to then starting to script, to, you know, to outline it. Like we were drafting like a decade ago. And, you know, at a certain point, like it, you know, you just need one person to believe in a project long enough for it to kind of see fruition. And Glenn, God bless him, like I think he carried that torch for this script for years and years and years. And like in 2017, it looked like there would be a little like an opportunity, and that didn't pan out. 2018, 19, 20, and then nothing happened in COVID times. And then like, but like the way it works is that like we would get a little bit of money here from a company in Ireland. And then, but it wasn't enough to make the movie. So now that we had this little chunk, we had to find another chunk. And we would find another chunk in England. And then we would find another chunk in France. And we would find another chunk in Brussels. And, you know, if we did the special effects over here, then we would get a rebate, you know, like a tax incentive. So that mean like, so like it was quite literally like once we found a producer, which we found in 2017, it allowed them to kind of like cobble together this bric-a-brac of financing so that, you know, it wasn't a studio movie. It wasn't like Warner Brothers took this. It was quite literally like 200,000 here, 500,000 here, a million there, like however it broke down, and all of it coming together until it was enough to actually make this movie. And you know, I only think, you know, we're talking like $5-6 million. Like it's not a huge big budgeted film, but it, you know, it's a chunk. It's a chunk of change. And it it stars Chris Colfer, like Chris Colfer from this. There's this amazing TV series called Glee, and he was one of the leads in that. When he came on, it like really solidified the kind of like okay, this is real and this is really happening. Because like, you know, what we were talking about before in terms of our conversation of like when is a film project real? If you get to casting, it's real. Like you can get a director, you can get a script, you can get like all these things, but until there's an actor behind it, uh it doesn't feel real. It's not as real as when you have a star. And Chris Colfer was ours. And oh my God, Alice Krieger, this amazing actress who has been in everything that you love. But for me, what I love her in the most is she was in the feature film adaptation of Ghost Story, Peter
Mm-hmm.
Straub's Ghost Story, and she played the phantasmal, supernatural character whose name I'm completely blanking on at the moment. Um, and I remember watching that as a kid and just being highly enamored by her and repulsed by her at the same time. and here she is, kind of starring in this movie I helped write. And yeah, total dream come true. That was a long way of answering your question.
And so you went to the premiere at Fantastic Fest, is that right?
Yeah, I was able to go to production too. Like I was on set last year, and watch them make it. And it's making movies is it, I find it to be highly amazing. I love it. I just love filmmaking in general. Um, I am the most unnecessary entity by the time you're in production. So like I just get in the way. But being able to kind of visit set, see the actors, introduce myself, and then disappear was probably a good idea. And then I see them on at the world premiere in Texas at the Fantastic Fest, and it was beautiful. It was Fantastic Fest is there is a chain of movie theaters here in the States called Alamo Drafthouse, and it's kind of their premier film festival, and they pick beautiful, like bonkers genre films. So it's not strictly horror, but there's a lot of horror, and there's like a lot of like other kind of like um, several other genres. But they premiered Black Phone 2 there, which was amazing to see that world premiere. Yeah, they have just so it was just like a lovely, lovely, lovely experience. No sleep that whole week.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. And, I guess for you to sit down and for you to watch it with members of the public watching it for the first time, I mean, one would assume that that is both exciting and a little bit terrifying because you're waiting to see, you're getting a real reaction, you're getting a reaction in real time.
Yeah. Yeah, and nothing prepares you for it. Like, I mean, what's great about hitting the film festival circuit up first before like a theatrical release is, at least with the film festival, there is nothing but goodwill going into that experience. Like people genuinely want to be there. Um, a movie could totally shit the bed and be awful, but uh, you're never gonna get a kinder, more warm-hearted and excited audience as you are at a film festival, particularly Fantastic Fest, because I don't know. Like I've been lucky to go to like Sundance and South by Southwest, and they're all like cool and hip like film festivals, and like people are feeling very much like, this is where it's at. But Fantastic is just this like bonkers kind of like, I don't know. It's a lot of fun. It's just so much fun. And they were very kind to our film, which is it's a very weird film, and is to not everybody's tastes. But for those who get behind it, it's just like it's just, yeah, it's magical.
Well, I'm so glad that you had that experience, and here's
Yeah,
hoping that there will be a lot more like that in the future.
yeah. Fingers crossed. I mean, I don't know. Like it's everything we were talking about before, where it's like you just never know. And like
Mm.
honestly, 10 years plus of just like, is this going to happen? Is this not going to happen? Like, I personally kind of like, as the writer, you write these things for film, and you have to kind of assume that they're not going to get made. It's the only way to protect yourself, because otherwise you're going to get cynical, uh, which you mentioned. And it's true. Like I like the people who I know working on different levels in Hollywood, they like it's never a given that the output of their material, like it just it might not go anywhere. No one will know that it even exists. And it's just so, I cannot fathom being solely in an industry, working solely in that feature film industry, where like you put so much of yourself out there, and like maybe it gets made, maybe it won't, but like that, like at least with publishing, like the book, hope like it'll get to the shelf, whether people read it or not, like like that, who knows, but like at least it'll exist. You could be in Hollywood and like write stuff and like it'll never exist. Nobody will know about it. Kills me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that. And, it's great to talk to people such as yourself who kind of you have one foot in publishing and another in that film Hollywood world.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've written a couple of scripts just to kind of learn really the mechanics of screenwriting. One of them being alongside Bob Pastorella. We wrote a script for
Mm.
a novel they're watching. And it is such, for me, it's a very exciting medium to write in. I had a tremendous lot of fun doing it. And I mean, a lot of my books are dialogue heavy anyway, so
Mhm.
I think I took to it quite naturally. But a big reason as to why I'm not like all in or just like forgetting the book side is exactly what you said. I mean, if I write a book, that can definitely see the light of day. That can be in the public world. Now, it might not necessarily be with a big press, but I could independently put it out there. So if I so wish, that is definitely going to have an audience or have a public reaction. But with films, so often, particularly starting out on spec, or you're commissioned to write something, you're paid to write it, you do write it, and then nothing happens with it,
Yeah.
so it's like I've written a lot of films, it's just, and I was paid, but
Yeah.
you can't see them. And what a bizarre thing to explain to people who are not in that industry. It's like, so you wrote it, you got paid, but we can't
Yeah.
see it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
I mean, I guess like, the check does clear, and that in of itself has to be the personal victory. Um, but yeah, there's no obligation for them to make it. Like they own it. They can do what they want with your script, and or at least for a finite period of time. Like we'll take that option for 18 months, and we'll either make it or not, and maybe we'll renew the option. Like it's maddening because like it it is almost so counterintuitive creatively to what we believe. Like, as storytellers, like you want to believe like we're telling these stories to an audience, like whoever they are, however many there are. But that's just not the case with filmmaking. It's just not a given that it will uh that story will see the light of day. And like that's hard. That's really hard to like accept.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
They have scripts that studios have bought specifically so other studios don't make the film. They
Yeah.
have like literally no intention of making it, or the stars haven't aligned properly to where they can make it. But it's not a thing. It's like we own that. You can't make that. Yeah.
Yeah.
When are you going to do something about it? Doesn't matter. So
Isn't
to
that
me, it's
cool?
almost like, it's like what William Goldman said, no one knows exactly what they're doing, but there's another level to it too. No one knows what they're doing in Hollywood, and they're all seventh graders.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's mine,
Yeah.
so.
Well, God, he said that in like what, this like late 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
And,
Nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed. It's actually gotten worse. Much, much worse. I'm eating my
Well,
Halloween candy in front of you now. I'm rubbing it in.
this is the level of enjoying Halloween candy
Mm.
that it's got to. And this is the level of comfort on This Is Horror. So, to begin with, you're eating candy pre first hour. But
Mhm.
now you're like, look, if people have made it 90 minutes into this conversation,
I need my
you're
sugar
just
boost.
getting the Halloween candy.
Get the Halloween candy, ma'am. You got your coffee? I got my sugar boost.
Yeah, and I bet that you have great Halloween candy in America because, in the UK and particularly in Japan, Halloween isn't such a big thing, but
Mm-hmm.
you Americans, you take Halloween so fucking seriously.
We do.
You
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I don't know if this is interesting for the predominantly American listenership, but it's interesting for me, and I'm the host. So, what is the candy like that you've got? What are some of the craziest and the most satisfying Halloween
Well,
sweets and confectionery that you have?
I mean, I'm a sucker for peanut butter, so like I'll always err on the side of Reese's peanut butter cups. Um, but I do want to sidebar and say in the UK there is a particular kind of candy bar. I think it might be called Crunch, but it's
The
essentially like
crunchy,
honeycomb.
yes, it's a crunchy.
I
You don't
love
have that in
crunchies.
America,
I mean, maybe, but like it has to, it comes from the UK.
right?
Like we I die for crunchies every time I go to London or Dublin or you like you can only you can find it here, sure, but like it's it's yours. And like at some point if I'm in Europe, like it's necessary to get a crunchy, if not 10 crunchies.
So do you come back with a lot of crunchies in your luggage? Is this like a specific thing, or
They don't
do
make
you
it across the pond. Like I'm eating them like as like I might have ambitions of taking them back, but they're not going to last the flight,
yeah,
frankly. They're too
yeah.
good. Too good. Give me a
No,
crunchy.
I
I
guess
want one now.
yeah, so you've never had a crunchy then, Bob?
No, no.
Mm.
But I mean, for Halloween, I mean, like, yeah, Snickers, the Reese's. One thing too that I do have to kind of lead in with too. My mom used to work for Hershey, and so there was always
What?
candy, and so you can get burned out on candy. Now I will tell you that my favorite thing for Halloween though, and I haven't had in a long time, but I love this, is caramel apples. I love a good caramel apple. Um, yeah, it's not good for your teeth. It's not good for your life, but that's some healthy crack right there. That's what I call that. That's some good stuff. I want to say though, I do have to add that I know for Easter, candy is a big thing for Easter as well. And of course, I think I'm pretty confident that the Cadbury egg came from England, but that was recently bought out by an American company a couple of years ago. And one of the things that we learned is Cadbury now has 18 ingredients, whereas when it was produced in England, it only had 4 or 5. And so those ingredients for the Cadbury give it a basically are designed to give it a 90-day shelf life because you have pre-Easter, Easter, and then clearance. And clearance can go all the way into like the beginning of summer. And so it's like you're still buying this candy that should be thrown away. But, because of modern science and the other 13 ingredients which are preservatives, they've extended that shelf life, and I'm like, something's just not fucking right with that. It's just not right.
So this is what's happened. Clay just innocuously eating one
Sabotage.
piece of candy has turned this into to This Is Chocolate and Candy podcast. And
As you should.
as we should, apparently. And when I was younger, like the Cadbury's cream egg was one of my favorite chocolates. And of course, back in those days, you could only buy it during the Easter period, but its popularity soared so much that it did become available. I'm not sure if it was all year, but it was certainly well past Easter at one point. And yeah, if I saw a Cadbury's cream egg, I had to buy it. Those were the rules. Maybe much like Clay McLeod
Oh
Chapman's
my God.
crunchy rules.
I love Cadbury cream eggs. Now I
Yeah,
want a Cadbury cream. We have to wait till what, April for Cadbury cream eggs now?
Yeah, I don't even think they're available.
yeah,
I don't
but
think you can get them.
But what I was going to say, so I haven't had one for a while, but I did see some people complaining online. And of course, I was shocked. Wow, complaining online? That doesn't happen a lot, but it did happen on that day, about these added ingredients. And they were saying that it doesn't taste as good as it did. So if Cadbury's are listening, I'm very happy for you to send me both the original and the new recipe, and I will be able to give an opinion on that. But God, I hope that they haven't ruined this most sacred of childhood treats by changing the recipe. Or at least if they have, it's like you've got to bring back the original as well. If only for Easter.
If only for us.
If only for us,
Yeah,
yeah.
only for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to pivot away from chocolate and candy and to pivot towards acquired taste. So, which a Cadbury's cream egg and a crunchy may well be an acquired taste. But your short story collection, as you said, it came out via Titan Books a couple of months ago at the start of September. So, to begin with, how did this collection come about? Did you approach Titan? Did they approach you? Did you have the specific short story collection formulated as we see it now? Or did they say they wanted a collection and you went through a process to decide what goes into it?
Yeah, it's interesting. I had my first book was a collection of short stories. I've been lucky that I had two previous collections come out. And the first one had like 20 stories. The second one had like 40 stories. And then Titan, there's this great editor over there, Daniel Carpenter. And Daniel and I had been kind of working, like Titan was always the UK publisher for a lot of my quirk books. So like they did Wake Up and Open Your Eyes. They did What Kind of Mother? And Daniel and I just really hit it off, and we kind of had been having these like conversations about like what we could do, what would be something that um, we could work on together. And I had been really eager to do a collection of short stories because the last one I had came out in 2017, and this was like 2021, 22, 23. And we're just like talking about like that's like 5 years of short stories that I've been really fortunate to get stories published in either like anthologies or literary journals, magazines, and had kind of been sitting on or kind of collecting like a bunch of stories that had been out there in the world but just didn't have hadn't kind of existed together. And I had been wanting to do a collection for a while, and like I pitched it to him, and he was like, "Show me what you got." And so I literally just kind of like dumped however many stories, X amount of stories. And it was probably upwards to like, I can't remember now, maybe like 40, like, God, could have been 50 stories, more like 40. And through the kind of discussion with Daniel, we whittled it down to 25. And we kind of talked a lot about what we wanted the sequence to be. Even though the stories themselves, like 24 out of 25 of those stories that are in Acquired Taste had been published elsewhere. But Dan wasn't going to just let that, he wasn't going to leave good enough alone. Like, he wanted to kind of dig into them and like develop, like work on them more. So he offered some pretty extensive feedback, not on every story, but on a lot of them. And I kind of went back in and revised a lot of them. And so like Daniel was honestly like, he was very hands-on and very like, this is something that we're going to work on together and kind of make it what it is today, what is on the shelf. And for me, maybe there had been a moment where it's like, I get to sit back. These stories are done. They've been published elsewhere. So like, I'll just put them together. We'll figure out the sequence and that'll be that. But no, like they were quite, Daniel was like, let's work on these. Let's make them better. So we did.
You said that 24 out of the 25 have been published elsewhere, which obviously lends itself to the question, which is the one that was original to this collection?
It's funny because like, it's kind of incidentally original. Like the poster board, the story poster board was lined up to be in an anthology, but the anthologies never came to fruition. Like it was accepted, like it was in the midst, and then I guess the anthology just collapsed, which happens. Like it, not every collection gets, anthology gets made because of whatever circumstances. So, but by that point, the train was already leaving the station. So, and I think Titan kind of wanted to say like, oh, there's an exclusive story in the midst. So, that became the kind of previously unreleased track for the album.
Although, having said it, there's an argument that they were all unreleased because you said that you and Daniel went through them all. So these versions are presumably a little different, at least some of them, to the original.
Totally. Yeah. Some he was pretty like Stay on the Line, which is like a little novelette in the midst. That one, I think, remains in its entirety. Like, sorry, like that is what it was. But other stories, like Psychic Santa in particular, he raked me over the coals with that one. Like he would not leave it alone. Like I don't think he wanted it in the collection. But I was like, oh, I really like this one. And he's like, well, then you're gonna have to work for it. So he was definitely, he was a tough cookie. That Daniel Carpenter, he's a tough editor. I'm just imagining Daniel listening to this, and I don't know if he will. Maybe I'm not gonna tell him to, but like if he's listening and he's getting to this moment right now, I'm gonna tell you, Daniel Carpenter was a slave driver, and he worked me so hard. He wasn't gonna leave these stories alone. So there you have it. There's your exclusive.
Yeah, that's in the episode title now.
Daniel Carpenter is a slave driver.
I think he'd definitely listen if it was literally the episode title.
My editor, the tyrant.
Yeah.
You got
Yeah.
a lot more patience than me. I mean, if you come back, I say that I don't know how many times he came back at you on that story, but if it had been like more than 5, and then even said, "Why do you even want it in there?" And my answer would have been, "I don't want it in there any longer. Thanks."
I
But
mean,
why? Why? Well, because you're being an ass. That's why.
no, I'm being cheeky. He was absolutely lovely through it all. But he was like, he's like, this is an opportunity. We can make these stories even better. So like, there were a few, Bob, you mentioned this before, where it's like you're very kind to say that the stories feel like they have singular voices, even though they're all first person narratives. Um, and Daniel was like, these stories are all first person narratives. We gotta mix it up a little bit. We gotta make this thing feel, you know, that it flows and it's not redundant or repetitive. So certain stories we kind of shifted into like second person. Like there's like some that are in the kind of like all encompassing we, which is
Mhm.
weird. I think Poster Board is actually one of them. And that wasn't originally the case. That was a first person story. And there's a story called Cyan, Magenta, Yellow, and Key. And I think that is in third person.
Mhm.
And that one was originally in first person. Um, and then there was another one called Sisterhood of the Salamander. And that was in first person, but he changed that one to second person. Or like a weird, I don't even know what you call we. If you say we, is there I'm totally blanking. Like, if a story is narratively we, is that just multiple first person? Like, is there
Yeah, I think so. I think it's still first person.
okay?
I
So I
think
guess
years
it's
ago that we said that Stephen Graham Jones had come up with the fourth person, but we didn't. He refused to define what it was. So yeah,
wow,
it's typical Stephen.
yeah, there you go. Um, but yeah, it's all to say Daniel was super hands on, and he wouldn't let me be lazy.
Yeah, we is between first and second, so is that like the 1.5 person? Is that
The
the
one and a half, amazing,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
half person.
But
I mean, regardless, all the stories feel lived in, and that's what you want. In a short story, you got to attack early. I mean, it's like you got no time to dick around, and they
yeah.
all feel lived in. And that's, to me, that's like one of the defining factors of a good short story is that it's not, you're not trying to build a world. It's like you've got a world that people are settled in pretty
Yeah,
well.
totally. Um, yeah, like stories are they're kind of tough because um and I think what first person narrative does is allow you to cut to the chase. Like there is an immediacy to it because it's like I'm here. Like I'm the narrator of this story. Like let's get going. Like I have to spin a yarn. Like I'm going to talk to you. And you as the reader are kind of dragged into that. You're brought into the process because you as the reader are the one being addressed by the narrator. And that makes you complicit. That makes you either like an unwilling accomplice or like a just like a shoulder to cry on. You're the confessional booth for these protagonists.
I want to know more about the psychic Santa debate between you and Daniel, because also you said before you sent him about 40 or so stories. So obviously, Psychic Santa got into the 25,
Yeah,
but then he was trying to push it out. So, I mean, did he dislike these other 15 even more? Like, what was going on
maybe.
there? Or did you love Psychic Santa that you contractually were like, no, this is actually going into the small print. This
I,
has to be included.
I definitely advocated for Psychic Santa. I think you know a lot of the pieces that didn't get into the mix, if I'm remembering correctly, they were just like thematically, like with this collection in particular, you can definitely see the kind of commonalities. Like these are the things, like when someone says, like, this is what I'm obsessed with. Presently, I'm obsessed with X, Y, and Z. And you can kind of see that you can be made aware of that just by what overlap there is in stories. So like a lot of these stories are like about parenthood, the fear of parenthood, politics, uh, so many different things, body parts, food, um, olfactory, like just nibbling on stuff, sensory experiences, baby carrots, uh, like these are like my pet obsessions, and like they're all playing out in these stories, and so one of Daniel's kind of uh, ideas and concepts was, well, these stories feel as if they belong together because they all share like common obsessions or common kind of like the things here feel like they link together. So there would be certain stories that didn't have that. Certain stories would just feel kind of like almost like outliers, like obsessive outliers. Um, and so they would stick out more like a sore thumb. Um, and then some of them just sucked, and others were just not as good. And I think Psychic Santa. It's funny because like Psychic Santa was in an anthology called Play Dead, I think, and it was a collection of like holiday themed uh, ghost stories. And the one I had in it was like that version of Psychic Santa, I think, was just not structured in a way that Daniel got. And he was like, this structure feels weird. So that story in particular, we broke it apart and resequenced it in such a way that it made better sense to Daniel and kind of made it a better story. And I think like I wasn't opposed to it. Like I didn't like disagree with him in any way. And it's kind of a relief because that he kind of rode me. Like he was like, I don't think Psychic Santa's working right now. And I was like, oh, but I really like Psychic Santa. And he's like, well, if you want to keep it, we got to work on it. And so I was like, okay, fine, we can work on it. And I really appreciate it because what ends up happening is that, like, in Goodreads reviews or people's responses to me, like a lot of people really like Psychic Santa. And I think that has a lot to do with what Daniel mandated. Like he was great about like supporting my obsessions, but also pushing me to kind of make the stories better. And yeah. So now if you're into deep cuts, you can get the anthology and read the original version and then have acquired taste and read I don't know if you would call it the director's cut, but it's like the editor's cut. I don't know. Like the newly revisioned envisioned version of it.
Daniel Carpenter's remastered edition. But it was interesting that early on that you mentioned the influence of the beat poets and
Mm-hmm.
specifically Allen Ginsberg and William Burroughs, because I had a note about your kind of different modes as a writer, and you have some of the stories here, I suppose, are more traditional, and others, they were almost poems or portraits that just evoked a feeling that is not dissimilar from the Beat generation of poets. So I hadn't quite put it together, but as soon as you said it, it's like, well, of course you would love Ginsberg and Burroughs because kind of their imprint is all over some of these.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up wanting to be William Burroughs. Like, I had a circle of friends, and like our cosplay of the day growing up was basically like, you're gonna be Allen Ginsberg, and you get to be Jack Kerouac, and I get to be Burroughs. And like that was the kind of way that we went about yeah, just like imagining ourselves, like we wanted to be that. Yeah, it was beautiful. I loved. I never got to see Burroughs, but I did see Ginsberg, and Kerouac was long gone before I got around. But I did get to see Ginsberg, which was really super cool. Here in New York, when I was like a freshman in college, and it was such a transformative experience. Seeing him read William Blake poems in a church on 125th Street at Columbia University, and just like he had a harmonium in his lap and like just squeezing the squeeze box with his knees, singing you know, the nurse's song with this like whole the place was just packed, and it was just like such a holy experience for me. I loved it. I loved it. I can't remember what your question was, but that's my answer.
Well, there was no question as such, so what a fortunate time to have an answer to a question that was not posed. That is the level of competency when you come on the podcast. But wow, what a experience and privilege to be able to say that you saw Allen Ginsberg perform live. Unbelievable.
I mean, it was beautiful. It was just fucking beautiful. It was like, I mean, you know, when you're a kid, you find these, like, it's like what we were kind of talking about with Chuck Palahniuk, where it's like you find these writers, and they like inspire you in a way that like you kind of have this BCAD experience where it's like, this is my understanding of writing before I read Allen Ginsberg, and now this is my understanding of writing after reading Allen Ginsberg. And you know, it does go to that thing of like, you know, there is the words on the page, but then there is the ability to see him live and see him quote unquote perform. And it you know, there's just so few writers that like, I mean, like I do feel like there was something holy to it. I am not a religious person, but like I feel as if seeing him kind of evoke these emotions and these feelings and this power with words and song, like it was just I don't know. It's been a while since I've thought about that. I mean, because this was like 1996, thousands and thousands of years ago when I was in college. And um, yeah, that was it. That was enough for me. I was in.
You know, and if we're to talk about wonderful writers and wonderful underrated or unknown writers given the complete mastery of the language and the craft, and that brings us back to Nathan Ballingrud and your final story in the collection, Nathan Ballingrud's Haunting Horror Rex. Wow, what an experience, and really caught me off guard that we have this love letter to Nathan Ballingrud, though I was very happy, of course I was, when you mentioned wounds, and you're like, of course, if you knew Nathan Ballingrud, you would know that was The Visible Filth, published in 2015. Fuck yeah, you would.
How would you know that? Where would that come from? Yeah, I'm so sheepish about that whole story because, like, I've never actually spoken to Mr. Ballingrud. We've exchanged emails. I've never met him in person. I don't think. And I'm like so sheepish about it because, like, when you learn that he lives in Asheville and you learn that he does have this job or had this job. I don't know if I think he still has it, but like he works at a bookstore in Asheville, North Carolina. And me, as someone who does immensely appreciate his writing, loves it. Like, I did have that stoner epiphany of just being like, I wonder what it would be like to just get in the car and just drive down there and see him at his place of work and be like, hi. And like I don't know if anyone's ever done it. I have to believe someone has done it at some point. Maybe not to the effect that in this story, but like that, like someone has to be like, "Oh, you're Nathan Ballingrud," and he's like, "Yeah, how can I help you?" just the cognitive dissonance of like someone that I can kind of personally hold up in such high regard and put on this pedestal, and that like he's almost a target for obnoxious fans such as myself, and that like were any one of us, compelled to kind of make the sojourn, we could corner him and just be like, "You're Nathan Ballingrud," and he would have to be like, "Yes, I am. How can I help you?"
Because I had wondered if Nathan had been aware of you writing the story previously or if you'd contacted him beforehand, but I kind of love that you just went for it.
Well, okay. In my defense, I did ask for permission. There was a anthology, like a fundraiser anthology, that Shortwave Books published. It was called Shadows on the Stacks, and all the stories had to be about like banned books, or like had to have this feeling of like books in peril. So I wrote about Mr. Ballingrud, and as I was writing it, I was basically like, oh my God, like if I just do this and I don't have his approval, if he doesn't give me his blessing and he reads it and is put off by it by any stretch, I'm going to feel really bad. And that's going to be a bad look. So I knew that he had worked with someone else at another publisher. I had asked if he would be so inclined to forward an email from me to him. And then, in that email, like, "Hello, Mr. Ballingrud, I'm a big fan. I have this opportunity to write this story. This is my idea. Are you okay with that? Do I have your blessing?" And he was very, he was like, "Go for it." It wasn't like a long exchange, and there haven't been like many exchanges since, but it's definitely been like, now that it's done, and it's out there, I think certain people have been like, like, it just feels very Beavis and Butthead to me, where I think people are just like, like, "Hey, Nathan Ballingrud, you've got this story." Like, and I I don't think he gets it a lot, but I hope if and when someone comes up to him and says, "Have you read this story?" that he's not regretful of having given me permission to have written it.
Well, I'm sure he won't be. I'm sure that he's delighted. And I wondered too, did you deliberately end on this because then it's kind of your final recommendation to the reader? And also, if you put it in the middle of the story, Well, was in the middle of the collection, well, was there the real risk that it's like, "Oh, shit, they're gonna put it down and read Nathan Ballingrud," because if they haven't read him, you've hyped him up so much that they're like, "Well, we gotta read him now."
Yeah. He's the best. I love he's someone who strikes me as having confidence in his writing. Like we were talking way at the beginning of this. Like
Mhm.
I feel like every word is chosen with authority. And that's the difference. Like I think when I read his stuff, his stories, I'm aware of the craftsmanship, the architecture,
Mhm.
the like they are assured, stable, they are buildings. And I think I as a reader probably come to him knowing that I'm going to be in capable hands.
Mhm.
Uh and it's not even a sense of safety, but it is a sense of like being in a place that like there is control. And I'm saying that while also acknowledging that that is not something that I give my readers. That I have less control over the words, but it is that instability and chaos that makes this particular type of writing volatile and hopefully engaging. But
Mhm.
that is almost the antithesis of what I feel like Nathan Ballingrud and John Langan and Laird Barron. Like there's certain other authors that I feel like, you know, you feel like the control of the author, um, and you probably come to want that with their work,
Yeah.
but
It's
not
definitely
mine.
inspired me on doing things like reading The Strange
Yeah,
and just, realizing that this is like, my first adult read was Ray Bradbury. So it was very, nice to read something that Nathan had written set, on Mars in this kind of retro futuristic setting, and then to turn around and now he's doing these lunar gothic stories,
yeah,
and it's like there's a level of mastery there that I just want to tap into. I just want a little bit of it. You know, I struggle with the fact that I'm writing something post apocalyptic and I feel like it might not be realistic, and it's like it's fucking fiction.
yeah,
So it's like you have to you get that mindset, you get caught up in it. The only thing that drives me is knowing that Nathan Ballingrud has done some crazy stuff and did it, and it's like people love it. And there's an entire multi-billion-dollar franchise called Doom that's based off the concept that demons are on Mars. So I mean, it's like, fuck, if they can do that shit, like Michael said, why not me?
yeah.
Yeah,
Is that what Doom is really about? The video game Doom is about demons on Mars?
yeah.
Did I know that? I don't know if I knew that.
It's pretty much what it's about.
I think I saw the movie with Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and I don't know if I ever realized it was about demons on Mars.
Yeah.
Did they ever say in that movie?
I don't
There are
even think.
demons
I
on
mean, but
Mars.
that's like the basic premise. I mean, and if you really think about it, Deep Space did it better. Dead Space
Yeah.
did it better. I mean, Dead Space did it well enough that Brian Evanson actually wrote Dead Space books. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
He's
mean,
another one that like the kind of assuredness of the author.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'd put Brian Evanson and Nathan Ballingrud in the same genre, the same category, whatever that category is, I suppose. Dark literary fiction with elements of horror and sci-fi and weirdness and goodness, it's all good stuff.
Yeah.
And I think you were talking about what you do and what Nathan does, and it being a slightly different way of operating and doing things. And I think we all get that, when we shouldn't, but of course we do, even if it's subconsciously, we start comparing our work to other people's work and looking where does it kind of fit in this rich tapestry of horror and dark fiction. And I think it's fine to categorize, but the mistake that we mustn't make is to say, like, oh, because let's say that he's scrutinizing every single word, that somehow makes it superior to what we're doing, where maybe we're not scrutinizing it to that level, because it's just a different mode. That would be like in heavy metal trying to say whether thrash metal or technical death metal is better. They're just different ways of doing it, different modes of operating. And that there's a tendency for the human being in general. We compare ourselves to others, and we'll put them on a pedestal, and we'll put us very much below. Like we're on the ground, maybe we've burrowed beneath the ground, but then we're almost not seeing the good and the joy and the value in what we've done.
Yeah.
So it can be a dangerous thing. But Nathan Ballingrud stories are great, Clay McLeod Chapman stories are great, Josh Malerman, Jack Ketchum, Anya Alborn. It's all good, and they're all just a Max Booth third story, or a Brian Evanson or a Mark Danielewski. They're all different, but they're all valid.
Yeah.
It's not to say who's better. They're all bloody brilliant at what they do.
Yeah. It's good to remember.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, this has been tremendous, as it always is, chatting with you. We love chatting with you. We could chat all the time. We could chat every week, but then we'd have to rebrand the podcast, and
I
that would
know.
mean,
It couldn't be the Josh Malerman podcast anymore. It would be.
yeah, I mean that's that, and having to commission more artwork is the reason. Those are the reasons why we're not doing it, unfortunately. But do you have any final thoughts or anything that you want to leave the listeners and viewers with?
Oh, man. Embrace the chaos. Embrace the uncertainty. I mean, you said it best. Like that, all of these different authors are kind of doing it their own way. And there's no one way to do it. And I guess maybe it's just a matter of you finding the way that you do it best, that you're the happiest with. And yeah, you can't beat that, right?
All right. Thank you so much again for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. And thank you for the award. It really means a lot that you gave the support to Kill Your Darling. Thank you.
Well, richly deserved, and many
Definitely.
thanks to all the people who emailed in and cast their votes in the awards, because it's the people, it's the community who are keeping it alive, who are keeping this going.
Mhm.
Thank goodness for them.